How to do more damage, or at least understand what your class does and what you should be looking for while not making the UI an add-on and WeakAuras mess. Hey there, welcome back to Marcelian&Flame. Those are the questions that stood as baseline for the class WeakAuras that I've been working on for the past year, and now we have them all ready for all specs. Let me tell you what they do, why will they be good for you, and how to get the most out of your class and spec. I will explain how the WeakAuras work and then go through each individual class for a quick rundown. First of all, a disclaimer. All of these WeakAuras are made mostly with my UI setup in mind, which makes a few things available and not necessary to track via WeakAuras, since I really want to keep these as simple as possible. I keep my action bars relatively large on my screen, and on them I track the cooldowns of my defensives and offensives and anything else needed that usually is planned for. This way, I don't have to have them also in the WeakAuras, which for me is just setting up two different sets of action bars for no reason at all. Second, just to clarify something here, I am no genius at this. A lot of these WeakAuras have either been inspired from someone else and adjusted to my style, or made by me in a very simplistic manner, so big thank you for all the smart WeakAuras makers out there from whom I learned a lot. As such, feel free to use ours and modify them however you like. These are also supported by our patrons who get early access to updates, so if you are interested in supporting us and being the first to see the fresher and cleaner versions as they get better over time, link is down in the description. But of course, they're free for everybody to use, obviously. And third, to get any and all of the WeakAuras, you can check the link in the description or hop on our Discord where we have all of the proper dedicated channels. Once you found the class that you are interested in, click the copy import link, go into your game, type /WA to open up your WeakAuras window, and then you'll have the import button right here. Click it, paste all of the code, accept, and you're good to go. So what is in our class WeakAuras? We start with the health and resources, which are very simple bars. For some, I was able to blackmail some smart people in providing me with actual visual assets for combo points and arcane charges, while for others, like Death Knight runes and Shaman maelstrom weapon, I opted to have just these little nifty box bars, easy to follow. One thing you will notice is that the health WeakAuras also show a gray bar when you have an absorb shield on you. Very useful when you are about to take damage and want to accurately gauge the amount of damage you can take. The next part is the cooldowns group. This section has all of the important defensives and offensives, which act as bars just below your HP and resources. Classes like Fire Mage really want to know when and how long their combustion is up for, to know when to time their meteors, trinkets, potions, and other stuff like that. Defensives are self-explanatory. Knowing when you are safe and how long you've got is fairly important if you are soaking something. This can be useful if you are low on HP and your defensives is about to run off. Will you die? Do you have to use a health potion or health stone? Or maybe just yell at your healer. Also, note here, if you go into this group in your WeakAuras, you can drag and drop any of these if you want, for example, your defensives to always show on top of your offensives first, or vice versa. This is true for all of these groups for all of the class WeakAuras. I chose some specific orders for these, but you don't have to have it the way I made them. Trackables will be the group that shows mostly your buffs, dots, and certain procs. If you are a Druid, Rogue, or Shadow Priest, you will see the uptime on your dots here with a timer tracker in case you want to refresh them before they expire. Most of the time, this part of the WeakAuras will be clean, but in specific classes like Frostfire Mages, you really want to know when your Comet or Meteor comes off cooldown, since it's the cornerstone of your hero talents. Even though you can look at your bars, sometimes a few seconds delay can mean a great deal in DPS loss. Also, for classes with Execute, the appropriate Execute spell should show here when the enemy is within Execute range. For certain classes that have stances like Warriors, Paladins, and Shadow Priest, you will see your most important stance that is active here, with Shadow showing you Shadow form if it is not on you at the time. Since with Warrior and Paladin at least, you will occasionally want to swap between them, so seeing the active one can give your brain the cue it needs to know the status of your stance. Shaman also has the weapon imbues, showing here when they are not applied to your weapons, and Rogue as well with poisons. Because, listen, I'm not saying I ranted for 5 minutes about Rogue doing tank level damage before I realized my poisons were not applied on my weapon. So, okay, you know, it's not like it's a personal thing or anything. Also, the rants happen 99% of the time on our stream, twitch.tv/marcelianonline. Going to be streaming from Gamescom as well as covering almost every WoW releases, playing all classes and doing dungeons and raids with viewers. Maybe it's for you, maybe not. You can at least tell me I'm wrong to my face, okay? Aside from what I just mentioned, I will roll into each class and tell you what you will be interested to know. There are 2 extra categories that are very tailored for each class called lefts and rights, since they are obviously to the left and to the right of your health and resource bars. For Death Knights, I included procs like Killing Machine and Frost Reaper. Even though Killing Machine has blizzard animations on your screen, for some of these it is important to know either the time remaining when you can cast them or know exactly when you get the second stack. Reacting to the screen animations can be slow, but honestly, if there are any WeakAuras you can do without, Killing Machine is an example that can be deleted since the information is already presented by the basic UI. Additionally, Unholy gets the Sudden Doom proc, while Blood has the Coagulated Blood passive, which tells you how strong your Death Strike is. The number is very abstract, but the concept is simple. The bigger the number, the bigger the Death Strike, and really it helps your decision making if you want to save up a Death Strike when full HP or blast it into a Blood Shield real quick, which can be a better choice. Vampiric Strike from Sandlane also pops when it is usable, as well as Trollbane's Icy Fury for Rite of the Apocalypse, easy to know when you have to pop them. On the right, you get a pop for Blood Beast when it's out, Festering Scythe for Unholy, Rime for Frost, again something you can probably do without, but Bone Shield for Blood, which is very important to know, especially the stacks. The lefts for Demon Hunter show Reaver's mark and how many stacks you have of it on the target. Obviously an Eldrazi thing. However, Havoc gets to track Exergy, momentum, but also Inner Demon since it's easy to forget to Chaos Strike in between your demonic and meta windows. On the right side, Eldrazi further tracks Thrill of the Hunt, mostly as a visual reminder of your little dance combo, but more importantly the Reaver's Glaive soul count and when it's ready to be used. Vengeance, as with Blood before it and all tanks coming, tracks 2 main mitigations in Demon Spikes to the left and Sigil Parry to the right. The rest of the cooldowns will be in the actual cooldowns and trackable sections. Druid has 1 extra section for Bear where you track the uptime and decay of individual Iron Fur stacks. This can help new players better gauge their armor situation and not be surprised by incoming damage. Outside of that, Bear will track its Iron Fur stacks in the actual number to the left and Wild Power Surge to the right, you know, the Druid of the Claw talent that tells you when you can cat shift for a rip. For the other specs, the left side will have procs like Apex Predator for Feral, Abundance for Resto, and the Solar Eclipse for Balance, while the right side will see your Blood talent situation, Swift Mend availability, and Lunar Eclipse, respectively. The eclipses will just light up with what generator is empowered, while the actual duration of it, together with dots and other procs, will be in the trackables for all specs. Evoker has simpler WeakAuras. Augmentation tracks Ebonmite duration in the cooldowns bar, but the availability and missing buffs on the left as a reminder. Preservation tracks temporal compression on the left. Devastation tracks Feed the Flames in case you want to know when your pyres burst into a firestorm. Particularly useful if you don't want to waste that firestorm on one mob or a dying pack. All specs track Leaping Flames to the right side. Evoker is a class I don't play often, but these seem to be enough for now. However, feel free to hop on our Discord and suggest anything you think it's vital to track that would also affect your rotation or performance in any way. For Hunter, let's go by specs. Beast Mastery has Frenzy tracked as a bar, so it's easier for you to refresh last second even though it's not really a DPS cooldown, in the same way the rest of them are. Pack Leader tracks the status of your howl on the right, so you can prepare for a summoned beast when it's about to pop, while the actual beast that will be summoned shows its icon telling your next kill command will bring it forth. Dark Ranger just has the execute icon be Black Arrow instead, and it should show whenever the conditions of Black Arrow are met. Still need to work on how to show the cooldown of it as well. Marksmanship tracks precise shots and streamline intentionally, since the weave in of the two in your rotation gets easier the quicker you are aware you have these up, especially their stack count, while survival just tracks tip of the spear here. Mage is a bit heavier, but let's go by specs once again. Fire has Sun King's Blessing, stacks, and the actual Pyro proc on the right side, together with Hyperthermia, since the animation on your screen is great, but doesn't tell you the duration, which is important. On the left is maybe the most important Fire Mage thing to track: feel the burn. For Frost on the right, you have Glacial Spike when it's ready to use, and Chain Reaction when played, so you can maintain it better. On the left side, you track Death's Chill stacks, since a lot of rotational guides have you get to a certain number of these stacks before doing other things. I purposely track Brain Freeze and Fingers for the remaining duration in case you want to optimize them for perfect casts and not just fire them when your screen lights up. Arcane tracks Arcane Harmony on the left and Ether Attunement on the right for now. On Monk, you will notice an extra bar that tracks the Vitality meter for Master of Harmony. Can't remember where I found this, but it makes optimizing your vitality way better. The left side tracks Teachings of the Monastery stacks for Mistweaver and Windwalker. Additionally, Mistweaver gets a reminder on Renewing Mist, so you don't sit on it capped too long, and the same goes for Thunder Focus T on the right with an added Jadefire Stomp icon when it's available to cast. I kept this in even though you can see it reset on your action bars, since you get it so often and your eyes on healers are usually on frames and procs anyway. Might change this in the future. Brewmaster tracks Stagger in an extra bar for more control over your Purifying Game. Elusive and Purified Brew stacks on the left, as well as Charred Passions, while on the right you get your Celestial Brew and Chi Spheres for that emergency heal. Lastly, Windwalker tracks Blackout Kick procs and Dance of Chi stacks, since these normally you don't just fire just as you get them, but you definitely don't want to overcap, so being aware of their stacks and duration is giga important. Paladin is one of the heaviest, but also the most straightforward one. Mitigations on both sides for their proper uptime, since you never want to be caught with your pants down as protection. Holy gets the Infusion procs, the Herald of the Sun Blessing of Anshe proc on the left, with Tears Deliverance uptime on the right, and all specs getting Divine Purpose on the right as well. Ret and Templars get their Hammers of Lights on the left, and Ret gets Imperium Power to the right side, with everything else tracked in the trackables, as well as Lightsmith's armament buffs. Similar to Evoker, Priest is one of my least played classes, but I managed to snag the most important bits. Starting with Shadow, you will track your Mind Flay Sanity on the left, as well as Void Torrent availability for Void Weaver, since it's an integral part of how the hero talent works. While on the right, you track your Void Weaver duration by the Void Blast icon, and similarly with Void Form. For Discipline, I only included Shadow Covenant as a disc-specific thing. Atonements out there are a totally different thing, and I can see why it would be important for you to track them. Personally, I see them on my party and raid frames, but Marcelian uses Cell for them, and I am sure you guys have different add-ons to track them. However, when it comes to Oracle, I found a WeakAuras that tracks the premonitions and adapted it for our own style. On the left side, you track your next premonition effect, and I kept the text with the effect and not the name of it, since as a non-Oracle player, the name doesn't really tell me anything. You will also see the upcoming premonition grayed out. Additionally, you will track premonitions on your bars as well, so you know its own uptime. I couldn't figure out how to combine the two, and this is the best I could come up with. Hope it helps. Holy is easier, even though it might be more complex as a spec. You have Lightweaver on the left and Rhapsody on the right, together with Answered Prayers. I debated on whether or not to track Holy Words, but your action bars do this plenty well, and you never get surprise charges of them, to my knowledge, that you have to react to quickly. If I am wrong, hop on our Discord and educate me, and I will 100% change this. With Rogue, I have the biggest disclaimer when it comes to the combo points. Currently, all rogue specs run all stratagem talents for maximum combo points, and the WeakAuras works perfectly for that. I am still in the process of figuring out how to make the combo points dynamically update based on how many stratagem talents you have, so in case you take some points away from that and end up with fewer than 7 combo points, the combo point bar will not work properly. All specs have Vanish on the left and Subterfuge on the right. Additionally, stuff like Caustic Spatter availability, Dance Macabre stacks, Master Assassin, Indiscriminate Carnage, Blade Flurry uptime, Premeditation, and Sense of Blood are all included here as well. One thing that's extra for Outlaw, there's an additional bar that tracks your rolled bones buffs and their uptime. Outlaw also tracks the Between the Eyes availability mostly for crackshot builds. Outside of weapon enhancements, which you will see a lot of, since it's the only way I figured how to properly show the right weapon imbue missing for the right spec with the right talent setup. Enhance has an extra bar tracking the types of elemental wolves, since sometimes they dictate when you use certain spells like Sundering, so you can buff it properly. Stormbringer has all the important tracked stuff like the Tempest situation and all the lightning procs. Totemic also has your Surging Totem on your screen, big and clear, while for Farseer's Nature's Swiftness only shows when it's replaced by Ancestral Swiftness. Otherwise, only Resto sees it. Resto also tracks High Tide and Undulation and Tidal Wave buffs for your spot healing needs. Elemental has echoes here as well, with the rest of the stuff being in trackables. All dot classes track their dots in the center above your health bar, but since Warlock is a special case, I put Agony and Immolate on the left side since these are the leading dots for your rotation, while Demonology has Demonic Core as its respective stackable proc. You can also see Backdraft for Destro here and Tormented Crescendo for Affliction. On the right side, Hellcaller tracks Wither here, while Affliction has the Corruption dot also here. Demonology tracks Implosion mostly for the number of imps. This is basically copy pasta from your action bars, but for the sake of consistency, I want it here so I can always know exactly how many imps I have for a Tyrant or an Implosion. One WeakAuras I am personally proud of is the Mayhem for Destro. What this shows is random procs of Havoc in AoE when using the Mayhem talent. The window to exploit it is so tiny that you can waste a lot of damage if you don't know it's up. When it procs, you will see it here big so you can immediately Chaos Bolt if you are in small AoE scenarios, or Soulfire and Conflagrate for Giga Shard gain. Demonology gets an added love in the cooldown section with every demon and its duration being tracked. This helps your Tyrant window timing so you can extend these without the risk of dropping one early. And finally, Warrior. Actually, the left and right sides are fairly simple. Fury only tracks Whirlwind stacks, while Arms has Executioner Precision and Sweeping Strikes. Protection gets Shield Block and the Outburst Weave on the left, with Ignore, Pain, Uptime and Amount on the right. The execute availability for Warrior has a lot of entries, since we all know the Massacre situation. I might need to update this for Protection execute situation for Season 3 as well, since it hasn't been needed at all for about 2 years now, so keep your eyes open for that. But everything else should be fairly obvious. I mentioned Cell as an add-on for Atonement and other healer things. We have a video on all of the add-ons we will be using in Season 3 that you can check right here. Whether it's quality of life or performance enhancers, we got them all, baby! So just click the link, or button, or screen. It's on there, okay? You see it, bye-bye!